off if you want to jump in and ask any sort of questions. That's all good. I don't think with the participants we have and everything and the numbers, I don't think it's going to bust any bandwidth or anything at the moment. But just feel free to jump in with any questions as you go. But before we get moving, Christian, I'll just open this up with our karakia.
Kia ora. Me karakia tātou, whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora.
All right, thanks, mate. Just to quickly introduce ourselves. So, Christian, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so kia ora everyone in the virtual room and watching the recording. I'm Christian Curtis, a Healthy Active Learning Community Connector at Sport Waitakere. So I work with 40 different primary and intermediate schools across West Auckland. And one of my key things that I love to support with is funding. So yeah, that's why we're running this workshop today. And yeah, over to you, Jamie.
Kia ora, everybody. Yeah, I'm Jamie. I'm the Community Sport Project Advisor. Started with Sport Waitakere September, toward the end of September, and kind of the key things that I'm working on with is to Manawa funding. So leading the kind of the day-to-day admin stuff and working really closely with Christian, obviously, and some of the other team down in Massey, and I also work on local board type things across Waitakere region, and also kind of aiding things with schools and everything in the Water Schools for Life, plus dipping in and out of a bunch of other project things as I go along. So we also have Katie Dobson on board, if any of you know her, but she might introduce herself. She might not, don't know, but she's allowed to if she wants to.
I'm all good. You guys carry on.
All right, sweet. Moving right along. Okay, so in putting together the local fund workshop, we didn't want to it's kind of an educational thing at the same time as aiding and supporting getting you off the ground doing your funding. I'm not too sure what everybody's funding experience is, but it's always nice to get a bit of education and more know-how about to try to get things closer together, so you know more yourself, pretty much. So we're going to go over what the Te Manawa Active Aotearoa Fund is. And we're going to move into a bit of a collaborative thing. So because we're online, if we were face-to-face, we would have stopped. We would have gone all through the whole thing, stopped, and done a bit of a collaborative activity together, writing ideas down, getting kind of working on budgets and all that sort of thing, putting everything together basically in like a play scenario, I guess, but writing stuff down, kind of just letting your brain go pretty loose. But we're not going to do that this time. So, but what we will do is give you a bit of a resource at the end I'll email out to you guys, or Christian will email out to you guys, and then we'll so at least you'll have it to muck around with. I have this morning basically put together a bit of a fake scenario sort of thing, just to show you how it all will go together. So yeah. So here's us in a nutshell with our Te Manawa funding. So basically we're just trying to provide, it's using play, active recreation and sport as the vehicles to get people moving, essentially. Yes, we're talking about tamariki and rangatahi, but it can also be all sorts of other folks in our community. Anybody from Māori Pacifica, disability, deprivation, adults. It's just trying to give them an opportunity to move and then take it from there as well. So I've included the regional fund. The regional fund, I don't know if you guys know what that might be, but it's and it opened at the same time as our local fund. So it opened on January 30th, finishes at the same time on March 13th. sorry, I put the wrong date on the local fund. It's March 13th, not March 30th. But the original fund is like if there was a chance to work with a group over in the Harbour Sport area along with Sport Waitakere in our region. So that would be crossing a border. So therefore those two regions would be working together. So that means it would become a regional fund, not a local fund. So you're working in a wider Auckland context versus just in that local Waitakere region that we're going to be talking about more. And that's for funding over $10,000 as well. So as you guys know, we're here for the local fund workshop. So that's for grants over 10K, budgets over 10K. And looking at our priority groups, as mentioned a little bit, tamariki rangatahi in high deprivation communities, girls and women, disabled children and young people. So that can be interpreted all sorts of ways, and Māori and Pacifica as well. So looking at what can be funded and just thinking about if you've ever done a FASTFund application, a lot of the conditions to stuff is the same. However, when it comes to how you put it together, the budget is almost the differential between the below and the above 10K part, but all these conditions are essentially all the same that we're going to be going through. So what can be funded? If you need to hire a venue to run your initiative, or you need to hire a little bit of equipment for it to run successfully, you can apply for costs of transport to and from the event. Okay, so you make sure that your participants can get there. Support for the volunteers or activity delivery staff. Equipment. So when it says only where is required as part of the project or activity, what we can also say as part of that is trying to create a sustainability part to it. So if say you went into a school environment and you needed to have some gear, that gear would stay in the school. So then they could use it further with what you introduced or what you did, or they might ask you to do more. So at least you've got the gear there to be able to do it. Officials, so where these are required for the delivery opportunity, and costs associated with delivering and promoting your activity. So a little bit of kind of marketing type stuff there. Is there any questions at the moment so far with what can be funded? Just jump in if you want to. Okay.
Can I just ask a question there? Just on that one.
Yeah, sure.
Does it cover if you want to have things like clothing for the program to be able to promote it? Does that get covered in there?
Uniforms?
Yeah. Like what we were doing with the project was kind of offering like t-shirts and jackets and that kind of thing, so that the kids go away from it kind of going, look how special I am, I've got this. Would that be covered, or is that outside of the realm?
That's a really interesting question, honestly, Melanie. When it comes to uniforms, I think sometimes it comes down to what the program is and then what the need shown would be.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just like, is there a specific way that I would need to word it in the it was
it's
just
one
like,
of the I often use the analogy with people for if they're doing a funding application that if you've been to university or remember your days at high school and you have to do a project, you have to kind of answer the question that the lecturer asks you, in the way that they've framed it.
Yep.
So it's essentially like, okay, so what are they asking? How do I need to word my answer, essentially?
Yep.
If you do put that in, it doesn't mean like, oh, Melanie's declined, we're not going to do that. It's let's have a bit of a look at it. You might get a phone call or something, and then we can talk
Sure.
about it more.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just to add in there, I think what Jamie is really trying to say is that you can kind of, if you have enough evidence of need for something, whether it's uniforms or equipment hire and stuff like that, if you put it into the application, don't be scared to do that, because we're here to support you before the application is submitted, to help you and guide you. And we're obviously not the be all and end all. We're not just going to be like, no, that's not going to be funded. And we want to support you as much as possible. So put everything you can in to the application, and we will guide you and help you shape it before you can submit it. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good answer, Christian. And just as an example off the top of my head, is that say you wanted to do a Muslim girls ice skating newbies initiative or something, right? But to allow those Muslim girls to be able to participate, they probably would need the right sort of gear to feel free enough to move into ice skate. So because if they used their traditional clothing, they might feel a little bit constricted. Therefore, it creates a bit of a barrier anyway. So you might go, okay, well, how am I going to get like an athletic type hijab or like some clothing or whatever, which there's suppliers for, you know? So you might go, well, okay, I want to get XYZ appropriate clothing, and then that would be part of the application, because you're taking the barrier away for that community to be able to learn how to do something new. So
Yep. Perfect. Thanks, guys. That's awesome, because I guess you kind of look at and the funding applications that I've done in the past have been through the various trusts, and of course that is something that's always a roadblock. And so it was like, is this something that's going to be a roadblock here? Is it something that we even look at? Because obviously there's quite a bit of time and effort kind of goes into costing that type of thing. And it's like, well, if it isn't, let's just focus on the things that we potentially could get some money, rather than the things that we're not going to. That would be really nice. So it was like, yeah, it's making sure that the focus was actually in the right place. I think that's probably where I kind of come from.
And that's a good place to come from, honestly. I think ultimately we're trying to create the opportunity and cut down the barrier versus putting up walls, you know. So the more we talk about that and come up with solutions, the better it is for everybody. So okay, moving on. What we won't fund. So I don't want to go through this too fast, because there's explanations to all of these. So basically, if you're looking at ongoing costs such as like salaries and wages, that we can't do that, and that's basically because we're not trying to create like an FTE for something like a full-time equivalent type salary that's an ongoing thing, because we don't do multi-year funding. Costs that are already funded by other sources. So basically not double dipping. So if you're getting funding from a local board, and then you're kind of like going around the back door to get more funding, that ups that. Costs are retrospective projects. So basically not doing it beforehand and then going, can you pay for it now? Costs associated with professional athletes. And this is also things to do with elite type scenarios, academy costs, player development type camps, all that sort of thing. We're trying to keep it at community-based play, active recreation, and sport opportunities. So we're not paying the Blues wages, essentially, and definitely not the Warriors. Capital costs. So this is a bit of a funky one because people struggle with what the capital cost is sometimes. So basically, my best explanation to you guys is adding value to a property that you might be doing the initiative on. So we can't fund something that creates a building or like a little activity centre at your school because that's a MOE funding thing, not something for us to fund, which then ups the value of the land that you're on. Medals, prizes, giveaways, and spot prizes. Water Skills for Life lessons. The reason for that is because Water Skills for Life has another funding stream anyway from Active, which uses that. Swimming lessons, which are incorrect as part of the in-curriculum delivery time, kind of goes together with Water Skills for Life because most of the time, Water Skills for Life is in curriculum time. School camps that are not part of, which are outside of the scope of curriculum, and school sport administrator and coordinated costs. Again, kind of goes back to the salaries and wages part and everything. Not forgetting though that just going back a slide that if we're talking about, I'm going to see if I can use one of these. If we're just talking about this guy, if you need to pay, say, for a coach or facilitator to deliver your program successfully and make sure that opportunity is successful, then that part you can put that cost in. However, it'll probably be from X time to X time, so it's not the ongoing part. Sorry, that should have said who can and cannot be funded. So who can be funded? Hapu, iwi, marae, and Māori organisations. And we'll get into that part in one more slide. Primary, intermediate, and secondary schools, tertiary education, and whare wānanga, charitable trusts and incorporated societies. So that's mainly clubs and organisations. Regional and local councils. So a local board can, like Henderson Massey local board could come to us as much as we might go to them to get a funding stream for an initiative that we want to do also. And for-profit businesses and commercial organisations and social enterprises. So in the past, it was only not-for-profit. So basically, this slide would probably stop at charitable trusts and incorporated societies, but with Te Manawa, it's broadened the scope of what can be done and who can get funded to allow those opportunities to happen. So the for-profit businesses, such as say Kelly Sport or something, can go ahead and look at doing a funding application as well. Who can't do it? National organisations, national sport orgs. So they get a partnership investment every year from Sport New Zealand. So that's how they operate their organisation. Government agencies and their regional branches, early learning services, professional and semi-professional sports teams and organisations. So we touched on that one. And if you're a sole trader, so if you're a yoga teacher and you're a sole trader, that's what you do for a living, you cannot get Te Manawa funding for yourself. However, how you might go about being funded to do a yoga initiative or whatever in a school or a club for those organisations, you would have to ask them to do the funding application for you to then be engaged with them. Any questions? Okay, so we just touched on Māori organisations, marae, iwi, and hapu. So the next part we're talking about is te whetū rehua. So when you're doing an application for te manawa, there is a section where you can tick this will be delivered in a Māori context. So then that will open up further questioning about how that aspect will be taken care of. All right. So, and we need to make sure that if that is said, you need to then explain how that's going to be done using land like places of significance or in te reo or everything like that. So I'm hoping you guys can see this slide. I tried to snip it and get it as big as possible. But basically within te whetū rehua, there's 5 dimensions of it, and so hence the star. And essentially what happens is you get a wee spreadsheet with 5 categories, and then as the person applying for the fund, you will then score yourself between 1 and 3, okay, on these five dimensions that you're asked about. So going around the outside of the star is a 1, the next point in is a 2, and the further in you go is a 3. Okay, so the maximum score is a 15 that you can get on your self-assessment, but we're probably looking for about a 10. All right. So what happens from here is that because we have advisors and everything, and we don't just make decisions. We want to have the best advice possible. So we want to put that across their table and make sure that how the applicant has explained themselves is in a way that our local iwi, Māori, not just across Waitakere, but across Auckland is happy with how that would be delivered in that context. Okay, and then we move forward from there. So that's just one thing I wanted to make sure of, you guys, is because it's quite an important part of this application process if you choose to go down that, if you choose to do that. Do you have any questions about that at all? Okie doke. Moving along. Okay, guys. So with the funding process, basically tried to put together a bit of a flow chart. It's got some squiggly lines and kind of some large arrows and everything. I'd have derived this from a colleague's work, which is even more squiggly, so I've tried to simplify it as much as possible. So we'd be starting kind of in the top left-hand corner as the community. Applications come through. They go, once you hit submit, they come through a portal, and it comes to my computer straight in there. Okay. Next thing is the project's assessed for compliance and eligibility by community support project advisor. That's me. So what I'll do is basically go through the application and also go through the budget, not just because I'm a math geek and I like numbers, but at the same time I want to make sure that everything kind of lines up for the what you've said the budget is for what the equation might end up being, because sometimes people will just put in a number as opposed to letting the formula of the spreadsheet work it out. Projects forwarded to, this is for local fund. It'll go to the external advisory panel, and we'll sit down and go through all the applications and assess against what our matrix says, and then provide a recommendation to approve or partly approve, or in the top right hand corner is a decline. So if it's declined, we need to go back to the community and give them the assessment and the reasons why, essentially. If it's approved or partially funded, then we'll keep moving forward from the approved, signed off by the chief executive, and then contracts and letters of notification and everything are generated, and then you get an email in your inbox saying, yay, you got your money, time, and then time to go spend it and make everybody happy with your program.
Real quickly on that one, just because this happens so many times when we're supporting people, is once you get to the paperwork and application's been approved and everything like that, we need an invoice in order for us to be able to send you guys money. We might be jumping on that too early, but just so you're all aware, and it's in this recording too, for us to be able to send you money, we need to receive an invoice first. I can't say how many times I've had people ask me, when's the money coming in? And I'm like, you guys haven't sent us an invoice, so we can't give money unless we've received an invoice. So just thought I'd put that out there.
No, that's a really good point, bro. And just on top of that part, with our funding and many funders, but with our funding, we talk in GST exclusive. Okay, so when you do your funding application and your budget, you're talking with an amount minus 15%. So if you're GST registered, you need to say that on the application, because once you generate that invoice, the subtotal essentially will say $10,000 or whatever, and then on the next part would be the GST amount of $1,500, equaling $11,500. So it'd be like the funding was 10 grand, GST is 1,500 because that's 15%. 11,500 will be the grand total. So that's what you'd be paid. So we pay with GST. But we'll get to that point eventually with approvals and all that sort of stuff, and probably talk more about it anyway. So, okay. So, is there any questions you guys about the funding process at all? I don't want to be rushing through this at all, so. Okay. All right, team. So sometimes people have big ideas and big projects, and they want to have a budget that makes that happen for people, and that's awesome. However, what that means is sometimes we can't fund the entire thing. We like to be part of, say, the funding quilt. We want to be a patch on that to make sure that is moving along, but you might need to go to other sources to get enough money to make sure that happens. So I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of other pots of money that you can go to. You might have used them before. These might be really familiar, or they might not be. But some ones that are good, bigger ones to go to are the Lotteries Grants Board. So they do community. There's a lotteries grant twice a year. The trusts are really good. They'll listen to a lot of stuff, and they have applications open fairly often, but you need to check their website a lot of the time, or just even give them a call, because they are local and they are locally led and everything within Waitakere. So, and the next one is New Zealand Community Trust. They're a big funder across New Zealand, as is the Lion Foundation. The Trillion Trust is another big one, and then another local one is the Trust Community Foundation. So you guys might know that one too, because it is the support out west really well, and they pick up the phone pretty easily and can have a yarn to you guys about what the needs are, what your needs are, what you're looking to do, and then help you kind of compose your application. So just I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware that we absolutely want to be part of some of your projects, absolutely. But if you want to do more, there's some other places to go also. All right, so putting the whole concept together. So try to boil this down to kind of like 4 questions. So who's it going to be for? Why are we going to do it? What are we going to achieve, or what do we want to achieve, and how are we going to achieve it? So who is it for? If we're looking at priority groups and everything, we've chatted about this a little bit before, but we'll go through it again. The tamariki, rangatahi, women and girls, the disabled community, more high deprived communities, Māori and Pacifica. Why are we doing this? So making sure you show the need from the community. So voice out there. What have you asked? What have you surveyed some people? What are they saying in your local community or your club or around the traps or where you are? Or you have a good feeling of the need and can explain it. So you could have you could have seen through observation or anecdotal evidence type thing what's going on the ground, and you can explain what that need might be. What do we want to achieve? So this comes down to outcomes and measures. So what are the outcomes I want to get from my project? And then how am I going to measure it? And this comes down to impact, like how are we going to impact our community the best way possible with the funding that I've successfully got. And how are we going to achieve it? So looking at the budget, what's my costs going to be to make this happen and make it happen efficiently? Do we need a coach or facilitator? Do I need extra equipment? And do we need to hire a venue to house the project? So do I need a facility to put these people, my group in or my project in? Do I need some extra equipment, or do I need equipment for it to make it happen? And do I need a coach or facilitator that has maybe more expertise than I do, as the kind of the applicant to help it succeed and flourish even more? And then that kind of, if we kind of like look back on it, the coach, the equipment, and the venue all have a cost. So that comes down to what is that budget going to look like? Okay, so like I said, you guys, because we're not all together face to face, I put together a bit of a project. Yeah, so here it goes. So my intended participants, so just going through a bit of a mock project. So we're going to try to have Pacifica population, women and girls. So Pacifica Women and Girls Project. Outline of the project is we've noticed that a number of girls at our school are disengaged at the school. Through talking to the student council, we've identified that martial arts and self-defense is a popular choice of something that the students would like to do. We've spoken to a local judo coach, and she is keen to coach our students. And from her experience, having a mothers and daughters class would help that uptake of the initiative. And we're going to try to run it from start of second term to the end of fourth term. So essentially like 30 weeks, basically. So it'll be term to term, so it wouldn't be running in holidays. So the intended outcomes and measures. So this is sometimes a funny one because you might not quite know what your outcomes are that you want to have, or you not quite sure how to measure them, but we do kind of need to know the why. and the impact of what is going to happen. So for this project, thinking back to my days at a girls' school, looking for greater self-confidence. We're looking for better attendance at the school, and we're looking for better attention in class due to learning a new activity. The measure of that would be measured through initiative, and through it, so it'll be measured kind of through the initiative and afterward via a brief survey, and probably, and obviously having a chat to the students and the mums and stuff after the sessions, you know, just having a kind of a kōrero after that. Work with the pastoral team at the school, so they have some really good information at the school, the pastoral team, about attendance and connecting with the teachers and everything. So we can see the improvements come through that way, and then check in with the teachers along with the pastoral. So you can kind of, not to use the word data, but I'm going to use the data from them, because they can measure the attendance or and everything from just seeing when they're at school. So you can kind of see when that success part. Evidence of need. So you might sit down with the student council and prefects and identify, and you might pull in a dean as well. They could be the pastoral dean, just kind of like thing off the top of my head, but going through what the initiative might be, and then and they might go, yeah, awesome, let's keep, sounds really good. So then we'll meet with some students, and they might be identified as you know, might be at risk or something, and then gaining all the voices from these channels, and then we'll put it together. Okay, so and they're parts of they're quite important parts of the application, because those parts really pull together what the project is going to be as a whole thing. Yes, there's a bunch of other questions, but we really want to make sure that we hone down on some of these questions to make sure that we tell the story of what we want to achieve and how we're going to do it and why we're going to do it. All right. Now, have you guys heard of in-kind donation before? Yep. You guys can answer if you like, or just say no, because in-kind donation is a yep. So in-kind donation is a pretty it's sometimes quite an important part of the budget, because it means that it's costs that you don't incur, basically. So what I've said here, and I can't remember because my budget, I lost the budget that I made, but so basically what this in-kind amount would be is it'd be 60, I think it was like $60, or no, $30 at 2 hours for 30 weeks, essentially. But that would say it's at the school gym, and it's like after school, so it'd be outside of curriculum time, but you'd be using the gym. So it'd be time that the gym might be hired to someone else, but because the school is supporting it, they'll give you the gym for that amount of time with no charge, if that makes sense. So that's an in-kind cost. They're absorbing that cost to allow you to run your initiative. I calculated things out for the coach.
Does it, sorry, can I ask a question there? Does that also cover if you've got somebody saying doing web design, that kind of stuff for you, and
yeah, anything
and
like
then,
that, anything
and
where
then,
somebody, so other parts of the application are things like donation and sponsorship. So so this would be part of the income part. So you could also be asked, I mean, if we put in this together, we could ask the mothers and daughters to do kohara of $5 every week, but we won't, you know. But we could do that, because that would be part of an income to it. Other parts are donations, so you could have, I mean, you might find a local business that might donate $200 toward the cost of it, you know. And then part of that reciprocation is that you would put their business logo on the newsletter or whatever, as a support mechanism. Donation as an income part could be, say if you're doing like a like a football initiative, and and you go to Tanya Dalton Foundation, and they'll give you 100 soccer balls for no cost. But the cost of those balls could be $1,000 because they're $10 each. That makes sense. I took into account the coach cost and the hours and session time and everything, so that came out at like $7,200. And then I figured that we probably need some gym mats for safety, health and safety on like a hard gym floor, because we're doing like, say, judo or something, we might be putting people on the ground, but we need a soft surface so we don't incur too much injury or anything. So we learn how to fall properly. And those gym mats came out at like, I think it was like $260 times 20. But for gym mats that would stay at school for further program and for the further school use. So, because who knows, the school might end up in the College Sport Auckland Judo Champs because they did such an awesome job. So the total of that would be, what have we got, 12,500, because we're not using the in-kind donation part as part of the cost, because that's already been taken care of by the school. But as part of the budget, we need to show what that cost in kind is, because it will still be part of the overall cost. Any questions on that at all? All right, cool. All right. So so we've got 2 blank versions of this. So basically this is kind of like we'll email these to you after, like probably tomorrow morning. Won't be tonight. It'll be tomorrow morning. So you'll have a bit of kind of like basically like brain play on you can think of concepts, you can photocopy it if you've got the means, you can write stuff down, babble on it, do whatever, and then you can also use the budget here to put some numbers down. And we also have a draft budget on the website that you can muck around on too, which puts together all the equations and everything for you and spits out the total of what your funding would be. So just remember, you guys, we're trying to we're breaking the threshold of $10,000. So we're going over 10 grand. All right.
And it looks like Christian already enclosed this one in the invitation. So
yeah, the one that you have on your invite is that I might, there's a bit more to that presentation now. Yeah. But yeah, these would be on there anyway. Any questions? Any further questions? What are the projects you guys are thinking of doing?
So I have one question for the project I'm trying to come up and work with my colleague. So
Yep.
This is original for western part of Auckland, right?
Yep.
So if we organize a program and project in the western part, and someone would like to join from like other part of Auckland, can they be included in the funded list if we organize in the west?
If it's delivered in the west, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because we are trying to collect any participant who would like to join that project going. So I just wondered if we can include them in there. Yeah, cool.
Minky, are you specifically asking because you have those sites out like QMU ways and stuff like that as well?
This time we are looking for the a whole spectrum care organization. So we have lots of department, and we have quite high volume of requests and needs of sports activities, especially something that connect to the Special Olympic. It's for young people, like they are like teenagers.
Yeah.
So, and they are kind of everywhere, like north part of Auckland, east and south. So I just wondered.
Well, yeah, I think, Jamie's answer is that if it's going to be held out west, then yeah, that's all good. But something you might want to consider is that regional fund that we mentioned right at the start, just so your participants aren't traveling from all over Auckland to attend, because it might be quite hard for them all to get there from all over Auckland. But we can just keep chatting on that one if you're keen. We can set up a meeting.
Anybody else want to mention what they're thinking about doing?
Ours is a project to encourage women and girls into recreational ice skating.
Yep.
So a non-competitive environment, because we've found that we've had quite a high dropout rate, like other sporting codes, and we've also had quite a high dropout rate from our competitive skaters. And what we wanted to do was to have something that was fun and engaging, but also built confidence, and it allowed people to, allowed women and girls to come along and just spend some time doing some exercise, making some friends, and just having a purpose each week. Sounds a bit lame, but
Not at all.
That's our project.
I think that sounds like more of a social gathering with activity attached to it.
Yeah, possibly.
But I mean, that's what I think. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
It's we've found that we've had quite a high dropout rate of our figure skaters because they get to a certain level and it just becomes too hard. And it's not so much it's the financial pressures, but it's just being able to fulfill the training, be able to keep up with a lot of them. It's they have to train outside of New Zealand, so it might be that their ethnic group doesn't allow them to do that because there's pressures on them to be at school and to succeed at school. So so it was like, if we can keep some of these people in the sport but in a non-competitive way, then surely we're kind of gaining something from there. We're gaining some people, and maybe that will lead on to having us have a pool of officials and judges, because we struggle to get them as well. And it's the same old kind of has-been judges that kind of come along, and I include myself in that. So and it needs younger people with a really cool, amazing kind of ideas. And it's like, and I love being around people like that, because it's like, it makes you grow and it makes you not stick in the same kind of ideas and thoughts all the time. So so that's our project, and we're hoping to then grow it into have stages of where people can grow through a program, and they can, in their recreational kind of side, they can get kind of a little bit maybe more advanced, but if they don't want to, that's all cool as well. So that's where we're at.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it.
Oh, hopefully, crossing my fingers.
Oh,
We
well,
started it.
Shout out if you need a hand.
Thank you. We started it on Saturday. It's been taken a year to kind of get to here. And so we started with the hope that we actually get funding from the trust that we applied for, but it'll be from March onwards. But so far we're running an 8-week program, and then we'll see how that one goes. And then hence why I'm attending tonight to see what we can actually do to keep it going in the future. So that's what we'd like to,
Cool. Thank you, Mel.
No,
Tora,
thanks, guys.
did you want to mention anything? You mentioned a school holiday program.
Kia ora, Jamie. Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, good.
And honestly, I've got so many things in my head. What you gave, for example, kind of narrowed things down for me so that I could branch off that. I'm obviously of Māori and Pacifica ethnicity. I also run quite a lot of things with the awhi shares and food and stuff, whatever, all that stuff. But if I was intended to do a participation, it would be to be around, sorry, excuse me, mind transformation through activities as a whānau. So trying to get whānaus to involve themselves and not just only through a holiday program, but when the kids are already there, maybe getting the parents in as well to do something like a te wero, the challenge. The challenge would be to come up with an activity in sports-wise, sort of most, how you have those interzones and you have all sorts of different little sports and areas. So maybe through a holiday program, looking at a field around somewhere and getting those things sorted, where the challenge is to maybe go around in a circle like a, what do you call them? I'm not really fitness freak, but I'm trying.
Circuit, like a circuit.
We have one will be cricket, little cricket, like
Okay. Yeah, nice.
all
Yeah.
these kind of cricket things. So making a weekend out of it where people can come in Massey, Swanson, Ranui, Henderson, Kumeu, Riverhead, all those kind of areas where we could come together as a community and base it around strengths and weaknesses so that we can build the confidence of our children coming through holiday program, but not only for them, but as a whānau as a whole. I'm sorry, I'm talking all over the place because you're giving me some good ideas. It's just that I work a lot with the rangatahi through CVs and all that. But I've never had the opportunity to think about activities as in strength-based through fitness. It's opening up the avenues to so many different things, and also seeing the way that you're doing the funding. This is the first time being in the funding. I do everything based on, if it's called in-kind donations, then that kind of stuff, and what we get, we give. But I'm a full-time social worker, so these kind of things, they're always going through my mind, but I'm looking to do things as a collective so that it's not so hard. Many hands make light work. So I'm looking at your template now, and that's way better for me to look at. So I'm very grateful for the space and knowing what I should be doing so that I'm not, going from here to me around the motu. I just want to, this is a great place. I think this is important to have face-to-face as well, but that's okay. I'm enjoying this right now. So sorry about that, Jamie. I'm all over the place, but you're giving me some really good ideas.
I just love your ideas.
Being
It sounds.
all
I'm
being
so
all over the place
like,
is awesome, I reckon.
I
It's
just-
fine.
I'm so excited by hearing you. And I wish we were in the same room at the moment, because I think if we were, I'd be loving to have a big long chat with you. It just sounds. I'd love to be working with you.
I was going to say
and-
maybe we need to have a wee catch up with a caffeine beverage and chat it over even more.
Yeah, that'll
Sounds
be
amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'll chuck off the record now, and feel free to stick around after if we want to chat and stuff like that. But I'll throw it off recording.